Donald Trump doesn't want you to get asylum. He's made his anti-immigrant position crystal clear through a host of disparaging remarks and through the policies that he enacted while in office to drastically limit immigration. Asylum seekers bore the brunt of many of Trump's immigration policy changes, and it could be even worse if he's elected again. In this video, I'm going to tell you what could be in store for asylum seekers if Trump wins the 2024 election. Stick with me to the end of this video because I'm going to tell you about proactive steps that you may be able to take to avoid the worst impacts of a potential Trump presidency on asylum seekers. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government. But now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending, or maybe you're considering applying. And listen, I'd especially like to hear from you if you've been waiting for an asylum interview with USCIS for multiple years. All right, former President Donald Trump has made several statements recently about his plans for immigration if he's reelected in 2024. And these plans could have significant impacts on the US asylum system. So let's break down what he said and what it could mean for those seeking refuge in the United States. One of the central points in Trump's immigration plan is massive deportations. Trump has vowed to deport millions of undocumented immigrants within his first year back in office. Indeed, estimates put the undocumented population in the United States above 11 million, maybe 15 million or more. And Trump is vowing to go after every last one of them. So a whole lot of people and their loved ones are going to be living in fear. Critics are lamenting the societal and economic disruptions that this campaign will cause. And it will actually lead to more asylum applications, further clogging up the system and increasing the backlog. You see, many of the people put in deportation proceedings will have no other recourse to try to stave off removal. So they'll file asylum applications as a last-ditch effort to stay here. Now, most won't qualify for asylum due to the one-year filing deadline, since most of them have been here for a long time, but some may qualify for a different, less beneficial form of protection called withholding of removal. Another Trump presidency would likely make seeking asylum at the southern border much harder, possibly putting the United States in violation of international agreements, and yes, even its own domestic law. During Trump's first term, his administration implemented policies that aimed to deter asylum seekers, and these included the Remain in Mexico policy, officially known as the Migrant Protection Protocols. Under the program, asylum seekers were required to stay in Mexico while their claims were processed in U.S. courts. Many experts and advocates criticized the policy for exposing vulnerable individuals to dangerous conditions. Now, if Trump returns to the White House, we could see the revival of the Remain in Mexico policy. This would mean that asylum seekers might once again be forced to wait in border towns, often in unsafe conditions, while their cases are reviewed. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. All right, there's also a very real chance that Trump will try to find other ways to keep asylum seekers from crossing the border, just as he did with the so-called Title 42 authority, which both he and President Trump have used to deny entry at the border, citing the pandemic and supposedly related health concerns as pretext. Now, Trump will also almost certainly try to change the way the asylum laws get interpreted so as to justify more denials of people who do manage to make it into the country and apply for asylum. Under the previous Trump administration, there were attempts to limit the grounds on which people could claim asylum. For example, claims based on domestic violence and gang violence were significantly restricted, as were claims based on persecution aimed at people because of their family status. And we could definitely see a return to those narrower definitions, making it harder for many people to qualify for asylum. Moreover, Trump has hinted at increasing the use of safe third country agreements. Now, these agreements force asylum seekers to apply for asylum in the first supposedly safe country that they enter en route to the United States, rather than applying in the United States. During his presidency, such an agreement was signed with Guatemala, but it hasn't actually been implemented. This type of policy could be expanded to include more countries, further limiting the number of people eligible to seek asylum in the United States. Many of these formal policy shifts will undoubtedly be blocked by the courts because, well, they're simply impermissible under US law. That's the good news. But the culture that will flourish in both the asylum offices and immigration courts can't be sued out of existence or blocked with a lawsuit. You see, there are a whole lot of anti-immigrant USCIS asylum officers and immigration judges. And when the guy at the top is spewing anti-immigrant hate, well, these folks feel empowered. They feel like they've got the green light to crank up the dial on denials. I became a government asylum officer shortly after Trump took office in 2017, and my colleagues who had been at the office for a while, well, they told me that the vibe was already markedly different from the Obama years. With Trump, there seemed to be this feeling coming from up above in the hierarchy that you should look to deny asylum applicants first and not so much objectively evaluate their claim. So in addition to the formal ways in which another Trump presidency could make it harder to get asylum in America, well, there's the culture that will flourish in the immigration agencies. A culture of no rather than one that seeks justice. And I do think this will lead to higher asylum denial rates. Listen, if Trump is president, things are going to be harder for immigrants in the United States, including asylum seekers. It will be more important than ever to have expert legal counsel in your asylum case to guide you through the turbulent waters and push back against the bullies who don't want you to be able to stay and build your life here in America. And in anticipation of what Trump will do against asylum seekers, I do think it makes sense to try to move your case forward now, before he gets in office and his policies change things drastically. Better to get a decision now than to wait for Trump. So how can you do that? How can you move your case forward now? Well, if you've been waiting for multiple years for an asylum interview with USCIS, then you may be able to force the government to schedule your interview and to give you a decision by filing a lawsuit. It's called a mandamus lawsuit, and it's an extremely powerful, effective tool to move your stalled asylum case forward. We've been using it to great effect lately at my law firm, and I've got to tell you, our clients are loving it. I'll be happy to tell you much more about it in a consultation, and I'm going to leave a link in the video description to a tutorial where I explain in great detail how this lawsuit works. But what about in the immigration court context? If your asylum case is pending in immigration court, you may be able to get the preliminary hearing canceled and skip straight to the principal hearing. Now, this can really speed up the process. So please do reach out to us if you want to learn more about how to push your case forward. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then please call my office right now. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it really is an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.